Welcome, I'm Tom Shantz. I'm here for Teresa Shantz for this episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. Teresa's taking a creative pause, and I'm here to work with a new topic called Real-Time Regrouping with the Spiritual Businessman. I've been in business for over 40 years. In fact, I've been trained as an electrical engineer. I served as an FBI agent. I became what's called a manufacturer's representative in the Midwest in the United States. I lived overseas in Australia for a few decades and was based there. I was a business consultant. I have performed a lot of executive recruitment, also forming a consortium to help Australian manufacturers sell goods overseas and represented products in Australia. So a lot of my life, as well as being involved in spiritual work as a spiritual leader, instructing courses, leading events, and doing spiritual healings and readings, I've lived the other side of life as well, living that real practical, pragmatic business, life. We all need to be of service to be successful here on planet Earth. Business probably started very early with someone who gathered all the firewood and then after a while started to charge people for their services. And for me, business is all about being of service. It's where the fulfillment lies. So, one might ask, well, how, in this world, does business reconcile it with being a spiritual person? And probably the best answer I can give is that when you're involved in business or involved in your service, you learn and grow. I've had a lot of great learning experiences. And one of the purposes of real-time regrouping with the spiritual businessman is to help people see what they're gaining from their opportunities and start shifting the mindset from this is a job or, this is drudgery to fulfillment and service. And no matter what you're involved in. So, once I became more aware of what I was getting out of something spiritually, even sweeping the floor or washing the dishes can become an enlightening experience, which may sound funny to many people. But when you're in your true feelings, when you're in your feelings, as well as working with your intellect, organizational skills, and you take action, there's lots of fulfillment in that. So today, I want to talk about a situation in business that occurs quite a bit. The situation is what we call likes and dislikes. So one of the things that I've found in business is that if I'm truly of service, likes and dislikes really don't fit in being of service. And I'm always going to have my preferences. But once I found that I sort of, let go of some of those likes and dislikes, it's easier to do the things I need to do to be successful or to be more successful. Many of you are already successful. Now it's just, how do I get more fulfillment out of that situation? So today we're here to talk about that. And again, I'm just sharing my thoughts. My purpose is to help stimulate your inner wisdom by sharing things that I'm putting together for myself and hopefully start looking at life from a more positive perspective, because there's always challenges and not everything goes exactly the way I'd liked it to when I was in business or as I'm in business. But, the more that I can stay solution oriented and detach myself from those likes and dislikes, the easier it becomes. So getting back to solutions. So, you can ask yourself, do I look for solutions or do I look for a reason not to be successful? Now, that may be surprising to people because you'll say, oh, of course I want to be successful. I want to get this project accomplished. I want this installation to occur. I want to hit my sales targets and so forth. So the best way to be successful is to, one, communicate facts. Number two is evaluate your priorities within the big picture. So if you're having some discussions with folks and it doesn't seem to be that you're on the same page, always go back a step up to the little bit bigger picture so that you know together. You can always ask yourself and ask those that you work with, has anything changed from your original picture or understanding or feeling or knowing about what you were involved with? Is there an alternate strategy? Is there an alternate tactic to being of service? And then, in your opportunity, how do you best communicate your needs? One of the things to realize is everybody's got what we call a different way of communicating or perceiving life. And we call these the types of perception or types of communication. And many of you who listen know that I've conducted some readings where we check with spirit what your gift order is in terms of what your type of communication or perception is. So myself, I think in pictures, and you've probably heard us say this before. Teresa is a little different, and then she works more with facts and understanding, or key thoughts and words. So for me, it's seeing it. For her, it's hearing it. For other people, it's feeling. They have to have a feeling for something. And then there's folks who really just know, and they just know they're kind of ahead of the pack. They can evaluate well how that's going to fit with what's future events, you might say. So without getting too often to that, the other key to remember is that if you feel something, working with your feelings, your true feelings, then you organize those feelings or think. So feel, think, and then take action, and then come back to your feelings. So you might notice that you're caught up when you start getting caught up in likes and dislikes. You're going think, act, think, feel, think, emotions, and emotions really are just ways of expressing what's going on with us. They're based on our culture, but they're not our true feelings. As a soul, your true feelings and my true feelings, at least for me, are I love challenges. I love new opportunities. And I do love being of service. So if I take that spiritual perspective that my spirit needs to be involved in being of service, it needs to outflow my service. And through action, I can learn things. So, there's a lot we could talk about. But I think the big key is if you're thinking a little too much and you've got that noise in your head going on, or you're just over emotional about a situation, if you can, you're not clear. So, let that emotion pass, feel it, observe it, let it pass, and then cleanse and start working with your guidance as to what the solutions are. I often find as well, it's important to let people know where you're coming from. If I hold back on my communication, it doesn't really move anything forward. So the more that you can communicate clearly what's going on, the better. Really, if you work from communicating facts and staying detached and communicating from a detached perspective in terms of what you want to accomplish or what we're working here together for, that can dispel a lot of that back and forth that goes on. You can always work with your guidance, to check what's missing. Am I not communicating clearly? Am I missing the facts in the big picture? Those kinds of things. So you can always recheck too the timing of projects with spirit. So these are really to become your own best business person. It's really good to understand how you operate from a spiritual point of view and maintain your enthusiasm. When you know what you're getting out of your situation, it's easy to maintain your enthusiasm. If you're frustrated, you're not being clear. In my life, I found that one way to make the spiritual practical is to be aware of some of the spiritual truths, tools, techniques as I'm involved in my business life. And as I said earlier, we all need to provide a service. I've often said, geez, most of us, we have to pay a mortgage and Life in Western cultures is such that we've got to earn a living. And, the way to earn that living is to be of service. And, in this episode, we're going to talk about when we get off from that service, when we start losing our enthusiasm for the service that we're providing. And another way to look at it is you may find yourself in a job or an opportunity that's not that fulfilling. But, if you start looking at it from a spiritual perspective, you can turn that around and become more enthusiastic about your day-to-day life. Another thing that can help is by discovering your niche. So, we all have a profession. As a soul, we have a profession. Here's a new idea. And that profession is the business of being you. And you might say the business of being the CEO of your life, from a spiritual perspective. Now, we also need an avocation, and that's an occupation, task, or work. That's something that we rent our time, we get paid, and, an opportunity for an exchange. So it's also a role in playing the game in society. You might say it's the way or the how of a service that's provided. Now, your niche is actually a combination of both your profession, your spiritual, and your avocation, which is the material, and where your full expression can be realized, within a structure or a system, accomplishment with fulfillment, a place or position suitable or appropriate, a distinct segment of a market, a place to flourish and prosper while being of service, one's profession plus avocation. And of course, service is that action or process of helping or doing, assistance or advice given to customers, a system fulfilling a need, seeking opportunity for one's own benefit, freely passing on what you pulled together, the most effective and efficient means for growth. So in this episode, we've discussed likes and dislikes and not really fitting in with your service. Now, we all have our niches, and you have an energy type. You may be a spearhead, you may be a builder, you may be a consolidator. Your vibration may be more for administration, promotion, or facilitation. And when you're aware of this, you can kind of direct your life into those areas and find yourself in those niches. So many of you that feel like you're in your niche, you're in the right place, and it all fits. But if you don't know your niche, I offer readings, a personal niche profile, where I work with spirit and we check what your energy type is. So I'll leave some show notes or links below in the show notes so that you can contact us if you're interested in some of those situations. Also, we have a personal thrust, a spiritual thrust. And, your purpose is a reason for which something is done or created, right? Your thrust is a strong push or drive to project, extend, or grow, a principal idea or point or course of act. So I find that when I'm dealing with other people in business, we all have a different thrust. And the more you're conscious of your thrust, the easier life can be and the more effective you can be at providing your service.